Greetings, everyone. This is W.C. Ballard, the step-by-step CEO, and today we're talking about how to become a grant writer step-by-step. And if you've never written a grant, or you're a beginner, or if you're interested in making a career of grant writing, this is the place to be. But before we start, I want you to hit the subscribe button so you can receive notifications of every time I have a new video that comes up. And you can also look at some of my previous videos, which all blend and connect to becoming a grant writer. I believe they would be useful for you if you're really serious about this career. So I decided to make this video because there are a lot of people asking me some of these questions. And I thought about it and I said, if I wanted to know how to become a grant writer, what questions would I want to know? So I came up with 4 main topics here. Number 1, definition of a grant writer. 2, the salary of a grant writer. 3, what does a grant writer do? And 4, how to become a grant writer. So on number 4, I've given you 6 major detailed steps on what you need to go through to become a grant writer. So before I begin, let me explain what most of you probably already know, that people learn differently. Some people learn better with visuals. Others people learn with audio. And as you can see, I like to write out most of what I say also. So that if you're a person who likes the visual, you can read along with me. And for those people who prefer audio, who want to step away from their computers, they can hear me explaining exactly what you're reading. So that's why I do both. So let's begin, guys. Number 1, let's talk about the definition of a grant writer. A grant writer identifies grant opportunities. They write proposals and submit those proposals for review to an organization's administrator for approval, then submits the proposal to a funding source. If contracted, then the proposal is submitted to the contractor for review, and the process is the same, or whatever is agreed upon the contract. This is for those who do freelance grant writing. The salary of a grant writer. The salary of a grant writer in the United States varies depending on several factors, including experience, location, educational level, marketing trends, independent contracts, and company sizes. As of February 2025, the average annual salary for a grant writer in the United States was over $78,000. According to salary.com, salaries can range anywhere from a low $62,000 to a high of $96,000, with most professionals earning somewhere in the middle, $70,000. And of course, it does vary on whether you're working with a company or whether you're freelancing. If you're freelancing, it can vary. They usually charge by the hour. And it can vary from maybe $20 an hour to maybe $100 an hour. Number 3, what does a grant writer do? As of March 2025, there were over 4,000 grant writer jobs on Indeed.com, which is one of the most popular online job sites. Grant writers focus most of their attention on writing, revising, and submitting grant proposals throughout the year. They will also assist in identifying new grant opportunities, which requires research, and can answer follow-up questions from government agencies or private sources that are issuing the grants. Other responsibilities will include maintaining responsibility for most stages of the grant application process, managing the proposal from the initial application process to submission, informing your executive staff and your stakeholders about potential grant opportunities, and providing any feedback from funders. So what do you mean by feedback? Well, sometimes funders will tell you what was the problem with your proposal, let's say if it were denied, and you can give that feedback to your employers if something in the organization needs to change or there is something that can be improved. Also, collecting statistics, data, and supportive documents that are used in writing the grant proposal. So, 6 steps to becoming a grant writer is where we're going to start, but first things first. There are no standard qualifications for becoming a grant writer. They vary according to the employer or the person who's contracting you to write a grant. Some prefer at least a bachelor's or higher degree or some type of college because they believe you have more experience with writing theses or writing reports, so they figure your writing skills may be elevated a little more than someone who has just graduated from high school, but don't let that stop you. If you're a high school graduate and you have decent writing skills, you can become a grant writer. Some people prefer experience. Some prefer a combination of both education and experience, and that's what I'm going to talk about. I believe that is the best match, having a combination of both. Now let's dive into the 6 steps of becoming a grant writer. Step number 1, organize yourself. If you're really serious about becoming a grant writer, do the following. Go to your computer or office files and create folders by categories. Each category will be based on the steps that I'm about to go over with you. And at the end of this presentation, we'll review what categories should be in your file. If you don't have a small file cabinet, a computer or laptop, buy one because online applications are increasing daily. Step number 2, develop and study your skills. If you will be working with a team, there'll be a diverse set of skill sets available to you. If not, and it's just you can take classes or work on some of the items in the next steps. All right, the first step is time management, and this is all under developing and studying your skills. Time management is the ability to complete tasks well before deadlines by allocating appropriate amounts of time to your grant writing, revising, proofreading, and submission tasks. The next one, interpersonal communication. That's the ability to correspond effectively with other grant writers, organizational representatives, and any other individuals that are involved in the grant writing process. Another skill is technological competence, the ability to use the basics of Microsoft Word and Excel or any other comparable software on a computer, tablets, phones, and online programs. Guys, if you don't have any of these skills, then you're really almost at zero with this particular one because more and more grants are having to be applied for online. Next is patience, yes, and perseverance, the ability to persist through grant rejections and time-consuming processes. Next, good writing skills. You don't have to be a rocket scientist. You don't have to be a skillful professional writer, although that would help. But you need to have some good grammar, the ability to write a basic, cohesive sentence, and proofreading skills. Or have someone that you can hand your document over to and ask them to look at it and give you feedback. And the next one, good reading comprehension skills. Keyword comprehension, the ability to understand and comprehend and follow directions, especially when you have the proposal application in front of you. Many proposals are denied because you just didn't follow the directions or you just didn't understand the questions that were being asked of you. Step 3, educate yourself. Take a grant writing classes. And guys, I have the best one for you. Research and take a few courses in professional writing. Find a fellow grant writer or grant class that can mentor or provide advice. Step number 4, join an association and social media groups. Create your identity as a grant writer. If you're seriously considering becoming a grant writer and you're going to go for it, I want you to say to yourself, I am now a grant writer, and I want you to start acting accordingly. Research and become a member of a grant writing association. Join social media grant writing groups or form your own. Check on local networking events, and when you gather, you are a grant writer. Step number 5, volunteer at a nonprofit. Research your local nonprofits. Contact a few of them to volunteer as a grant writer or an assistant. And if they already have a grant writer, you definitely want to volunteer as an assistant grant writer. That's the best scenario, because now you will have someone who can mentor you, who will show you the basics of grant writing, and you will learn grant writing much faster. Now, if they don't have one, wait to volunteer after you have a few classes under your belt and you've taken on some of the steps that I've told you already. One of the worst things you can do is go into a nonprofit, declare that you're a grant writer, and you haven't taken any classes, and you're just a beginner, and you're looking at the staff and they're looking at you, and neither one of you know what to do. It's a case of the blind leading the blind. You do not want to find yourself in that type of position. Step 6, build your portfolio and your resume. Now, for those of you who may not know the difference, your resume is a summary of your qualifications and work history, while a portfolio is a collection of your work samples. And we'll talk a little bit about that in a minute. So first, you want to begin a skeletal of a resume. Just write your different categories of a resume, and on that I want you to list your title as a grant writer. Remember, you are now a grant writer. Next, list your proficiency skills that you believe you have that I referred to in step number 2. Next, list your current educational background. And then finally, as you complete the steps in this educational video, add those items to your resume. Keep adding to your resume. And before you know it, you're going to have a pretty decent resume for a grant writer. Now, let's review our steps. Step 1, organize yourself. You're going to be creating your labels and your folders. 2, develop and study your skills. You're going to read articles, handouts on grant writing skills, books, whatever it takes to learn. Step number 3, educate yourself. Classes, certificates, etc. Step number 4, join an association and social media groups and create your own if you have to. Step number 5, volunteer at a nonprofit organization. That's where you're going to have your list of researched organizations. And step number 6, you're going to build your portfolio and resume. Now, create your files and label them accordingly. So guys, in wrapping up, I want to refer you back to the portfolio and resume in the previous slide, where I said I'd talk to you a little bit about the portfolio. The portfolio is usually a group of samples where if someone wants to know more about how you write grants, they'll ask, do you have a sample of a proposal that you submitted? Well, in my classes, that's what I do. In my training sessions, as you can see, there are 12 of them. And during most of the sessions, I have you write. I have worksheets where you prepare documents. And towards the end, you start preparing a full proposal, and that becomes your sample. So what you've witnessed in this tutorial is a sample actually of how I teach classes step by step. If you felt that you really learned something and that you really feel that you can now take on how to become a grant writer, and that I was able to give you some clear steps to follow, then I want you to click like, and I'd love for you to subscribe to my channel also. And if you want to find some of my other videos, you can go to YouTube search and just key in w.c.ballard, and all of them will pop up. I really enjoyed this training and teaching you. That's what I love to do. I have many students who love the step-by-step process because you're able to clearly understand and follow. So this is your step-by-step CEO, W.C. Ballard, checking out.